Ewan finds his brother Rob slacking on the couch at home and asks him to prepare for a job interview he has lined up for him. When Rob asks him what is it about, he tells him it's something to do with care. Sometimes later, Rob finds himself outside a giant home on the outskirts of the town. He is seen by the estate manager Sandra and is informed he will need to produce some papers about his formal qualifications before he is taken seriously for the job, as she leads him inside. She x-rays him and lets him know he needs to sign an NDA and is not allowed to share anything with anyone about the meeting today. She takes him inside and introduces him to Nina, who is surprised to see a man for the job. When Sandra begins to ask Rob questions about the job, it becomes clear he has no clue, other than it involves some care. Nina tells him she is the job, telling him she has hurt himself badly and needs someone to look after her. As the interview resumes, they come to know Rob indeed does have some real-life experience taking care of people, but in prison, where he was an inmate. This surprises Nina. But the matter is even more compounded when Rob tells them it's only been a week since he has been released from prison. Not believing what she is hearing, Sandra apologizes to Nina for having Rob here for the interview, expressing shock at how he got through the process and is even here for the interview. As Rob stands to leave, Nina asks him if he needs the job to satisfy the conditions of his parole. Sandra asks her not to engage with Rob anymore. However, Nina apologizes to Rob for Sandra's rude behavior. Asking him about the terms of his parole, Nina finds out Rob has a daughter, Ari, and needs a job to see her. Surprised, Nina asks him if his daughter is named after the Greek princess from Crete, who helped Theseus defeat Minotaur the monster, only to find out he has named her after the pop star Ariana Grande. However, this only amuses Rob. Nina further finds out Rob has not yet seen his daughter as she was born when he was still in prison. Rob tells Nina his daughter is sick too. Nina tells him she was a doctor once and can sympathize with his distressing situation. Seeing he is about to be rejected for the job, Rob makes a last-ditch attempt by listing all the responsibilities of a caretaker, telling her he is good with older people. Though he corrects himself, telling her he did not mean she is old. Nina puts him out of his misery and asks him when he can start. Sandra objects to her decision, calling it an administrative error. But it's too late as Nina has already made up her mind. As the birds begin to tweet in their cages, Nina asks Rob if he is willing to sign up for a trial period, and Rob agrees. Sandra is not too happy with the hiring but asks Rob to show up at 6:30 tomorrow morning, warning him not to be late. Walking away, Sandra lists all the items he will need for the job, including bed linen. This surprises Rob, who asks her why he needs bed linen for the job. Sandra tells him it is a live-in position, requiring him to stay with Nina at night if she needs him. Rob returns home and tells Ewan that he has got the job. Ewan thinks it's cool that his brother is now working for Nina Jekyll, who is a legit celebrity. Rob tells him he needs the job so he can see Ari again. Ewan asks him to take it slowly, and how working for a billionaire does not hurt his chances either. Rob shows him a frock he has bought for Ari on his way home. Seeing Rob has no way to give it to Ari now, Ewan promises to drop it at the hospital for him on his way to work. Rob gets emotional and thanks Ewan for everything he has done for him, including letting him stay at his house and arranging for the job. Ewan asks him not to worry, reminding him that's what brothers do for each other. He asks him to get ready and start packing. The next morning, on their way to Nina's, Ewan stresses the importance of not ruining this opportunity in any way if he has found himself. Before he leaves, Ewan hands him Ari's birth certificates and hospital records, hoping keeping them will motivate Rob and keep him focused on his mission. Before admitting him, Sandra asks for his phone and reminds Rob that Nina expects nothing but performance par excellence from him at all times while here. Sandra then hands him a pager, telling him this is the only way Nina can ask for him. As she specifies the terms of the trial, Rob comes to know he won't be paid during the trial period and it will end any time he fails to meet up to the standards of the job. She further reminds him there are cameras in every room in the building and she has access to all of them. Sandra then takes him to the kitchen and shows him Nina's medicines, listing them accurately with their times and dosage amounts he is to remember. She tells him it's important to remember the dosage, as getting it wrong has the potential to harm Nina. Sandra then shows him his room, letting him know this is the first time Nina has allowed staff to live here with her. Soon they break for breakfast and meet Nina in her room, who is not happy with what Rob has brought her for breakfast. She asks Rob if he has his breakfast and comes to know he had crunchy nutty cornflakes with honey before he came in this morning. Nina asks Sandra if she could have crunchy nutty cornflakes with honey, only to be denied and told it's not good for her. Moments later, Sandra leaves, but not before she asks Nina to take her medicines on time. Impressed with Rob's ability to memorize his responsibilities so well, Nina tells him she has more work for him. Telling him about the 29 sensors in the house, Nina asks him to change all the batteries. She also asks him to change all the security codes in the house to 6 digits of his choice, telling him she is hazy with the numbers and trusts him to pick one. Noticing he does not have a watch, she gives him the watch she is wearing so he can make time for his responsibilities. Rob begins to walk away, but Nina reminds him it's important. Moments later, Rob changes the code and tests all of them one by one, making sure they work. He comes across a closed room and tries to peek through the keyhole, only to be interrupted by Nina, who asks him for lunch. Nina finds her lunch cold and rejects Rob's offer to heat it for her. She asks him to leave. Rob tells her he is finished with resetting the alarms, only to find Nina is not happy as the alarm frequencies are making her bleed in the ear. She asks him to deactivate all the alarms. However, Rob tells her he needs to give her the medicine now. But Nina tells him she will take care of it. Seeing he is still in the room, Nina lets him know she is not happy, making him leave. As Rob deactivates all the alarms, Nina seems happy. At night, Nina comes to Rob's room and watches him sleep from outside. The next morning, Sandra wakes up Rob, furious he has messed up with the alarms, Mr. Medicine, and has her watch on his wrist. Rob asks her to speak to Nina. She reminds him it's Dr. Jekyll, not Nina. She asks him to pack his bag and leave before she has him arrested. She throws him out and slams the door on him. As Rob begins to leave, Sandra comes back and takes him inside. Rob comes to know there has been a misunderstanding as Nina forgot to tell Sandra about the alarms. Nina offers to pay him a 3-month severance if he chooses to leave, or he can stay, complete his trial, and work here permanently. This brings a smile to Rob's face, even though Sandra objects. Later, while outside working in the garden, Rob finds a gold chain by the wall and senses someone is looking at him from inside the house. Meanwhile, Rob goes to the store and finds his girlfriend Maeve. She tells him she knows he is working for Nina Jekyll now and asks him to let her in the house for one last score. When he refuses, she threatens him with lying to judges about his past for Ari's custody. At night, Nina comes to Rob's room and finds his daughter's certificates. She thinks Ari is lucky to have such a dedicated father. As she leaves, she drops her cane and Rob picks it up for her, finding it loose at the top. He tells her it's a bit heavy too. Nina admits he is not wrong and leaves. Rob calls her Dr. Jekyll but corrects himself by calling her Nina instead. Nina lets him know she approves of his feelings. Later at night, Rob is woken up by the sound of birds squawking. He goes to check, only to hear a man and woman arguing over something. As he goes nearer to the sound, he finds it's Sandra who is warning Nina to take her medicine, or else she will call Eric. Nina asks her not to forget who is working for who. Rob soon hears the sounds of glass crashing along with a loud thump of someone falling on the floor. Rob hears footsteps approaching and hides under the stairs. Nina senses someone is with her, and stops right above Rob under the stairway. For a moment, Rob thinks he is found. But Nina leaves and Rob breathes a sigh of relief. The next morning, Nina gets to taste Crunky Nutty cornflakes and shares her regret of not eating them before. Rob asks her about Sandra, telling her it's been a while since he last saw her. But Nina pretends not to hear him. Instead, she asks him to prepare as she is about to show her something special tonight, a reason for living. But Nina begins to have a violent reaction to the cornflakes, rushes to the bathroom, and regurgitates in the toilet. Rob offers to help. But Nina shouts at him, calling him a thieving degenerate. Later that night, Rob calls Sandra and finds her phone is unreachable. He goes to her desk and finds, among other emails, a criminal check on him. In the camera feeds, we see Nina has woken up too and is heading downstairs. Rob finds Sandra's phone inside one of the drawers. Just then he gets a paging message from Nina about her promise to show him a reason for living. He finds Nina by a fireplace. Sensing Rob is worried about Sandra, Nina assures her she is fine and he has nothing to worry about. Nina offers her a glass of scotch and a game of chess. As they begin to play, Nina tells him the secret of being a billionaire is to play 2 steps ahead. She comes to know Rob will do anything to get his daughter back and offers to help him. As she goes on defeating Rob in the game, Nina thinks Rob has potential and needs some help. She asks him to bring more scotch as they need to celebrate her victory. Rob finds Nina's cane on the floor and picks it up for her. Later, Rob finds Maeve in the pub, who again asks him to let her in the house, threatening him that if he refuses he will never see Ari again. But Rob refuses and leaves. As Rob walks back alone, we see Nina dancing by herself, waiting for him. But Rob is attacked by Maeve and her gang and left for dead on the road. Later, Rob returns and is found by Nina, who stitches his gashes and dresses his wounds. Telling him the police were looking for the suspects who attacked him last night, Nina finds out Rob played a game of chess with her. Surprised, Nina asks him to join him in the other room. She tells him about his grandfather, Henry Jekyll, who started practicing psychology in the room where they are standing. Nina tells him that this room is where it all began and where everything went wrong. As we go back, we see Henry meeting Nina when she was just a girl. She saw him turn into a monster. Nina tells Rob he had the same illness she is now. Nina tells him this is how all scientific progress is made. He offered himself to test his research. In turn, it changed him, turning him into a bad person. He was no longer able to sympathize with people and turned evil. And now it's inside her. Nina asks Rob's help in curing it. Rob asks her to take her medicine. But Nina tells him its effects are only temporary. Nina asks for his help in killing it. Not sure what she is asking for, Rob finds out Nina wants him to kill her when she asks him to do it himself. Scared, Rob runs away. Nina follows behind her. When Rob asks him what happened to Sandra, she tells him it's not her but her alter ego Rachel Hyde who must have killed her, just like it was her who played chess with him last night. Nina tells him the plan was always to have you finish the job. Nina offers to take care of Ari financially if he agrees. However, Rob refuses, not believing what he is being asked to do is opposite to what he was hired to do. Now begging him, Nina asks him to do it for his own sake. Later, Rob stands in the middle of the road and calls his brother. He asks him about Nina and if there is something he needs to worry about her. Ewan asks him not to worry, promising to take care of him if he is in any trouble. He hangs up, promising to call him again. Rob goes back and asks Nina what she plans to do. Nina tells him she won't let Rachel hurt anyone else, promising to end it tonight. She takes him to her lair and shows him a knife inside the cane. But Rob tells her he has not agreed to do anything. As Nina asks him to stay 2 steps ahead, she changes into Rachel. She again switches to being Nina, telling him how taking medicines has weakened her. Rob struggles to follow and begins to panic. Nina asks him to kill Rachel before she finds another body. Hearing Nina talk about things going wrong, Rob asks her what she means. But she promises Rob that nothing will go wrong this time. Rob finds it hard to know who he is speaking to anymore, Nina or Rachel. At night, Nina prepares for the night ahead and asks Rob if he is ready. She promises him that her people will contact him about the money soon after it's over. But Rob tells her he is not doing it for the money, telling her he is doing this because that's what she wants. Nina then hands him a letter and grabs her knife, stabbing herself. As Nina begins to die, Rob hears her making strange contradictory noises. But Rob turns and helps Nina, only to realize Maeve is standing behind him pointing a gun at his head. Maeve blames Rob for killing Nina and asks him about the safe. As Rob tells her he did not do anything, that she killed herself, Nina wakes up, pulling out the knife. Rob begs her to stop moving. But the thieves throw him outside. We find out it's not Nina but Rachel who is alive now. She thanks Maeve for saving her, telling her she will be in her debt forever. Rob looks at Rachel as she tells Maeve the location of the safe. Rob tries to warn Maeve, asking her to open the door. But she ignores his plea and goes for the safe. Nina follows behind her, telling her she will need the codes to open it. Impressed with her skills, she compliments her for being organized. But the safe is empty. Rachel blames Rob for stealing it. Maeve turns and asks Rob for the money, only for Rob to see Rachel slash Maeve's throat and shoot the other thief. Rob stares at Rachel standing over Maeve, bleeding to death on the floor. Meanwhile, the other thief begins to get away. Rachel goes after him and removes his mask. Rob finds it's Ewan. Rob comes to know it was all Rachel's plan to get him inside the house, so she could execute her plan to perfection. Ewan begins to apologize to Rob but is shot through the head before he can complete it. Rachel celebrates her victory and asks Rob to sign the contract she handed him earlier, giving his body to her. She promises him all the wealth in the world, including many of Nina's drug patents for his daughter Ari. When Rob asks her what he needs to do, she offers him a drug to inhale. Rob agrees. She opens the door and hands him the drug, welcoming him to his launch party. As Rob inhales, Rachel goes down. Moments later, Rob grabs the gun and asks Nina to not move. He promises to get help. But Rachel begins to take control of his body. Nina watches in horror, seeing Rob turn into a monster that was her not long ago. She asks him to fight, but Rob turns on her and kills her. The movie ends with Rob sitting inside a cathedral giving an interview to a reporter. When the reporter asks him about the secret of his success, he tells him he is always 3 steps ahead of the others and begins to laugh maniacally. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more. Thanks for watching.